On some breaking developments coming in right this minute, India is now a part of an elite club of nations that have a nuclear triad. Prime Minister Modi has tweeted that nuclear submarine INS Arihant has completed its deterrence patrol. That's the announcement that's come in from the Indian Prime Minister through a tweet announcing that nuclear submarine INS Arihant has completed its deterrence patrol. A huge moment for India. Also, INS Arihant, the significance of the nuclear submarine's contribution is something that we will get to in just a bit. But that on your screens is the tweet put out by the Indian Prime Minister saying Dhanteras gets even more special. India's pride nuclear submarine INS Arihant successfully completed its first deterrence patrol. What that means is that India is now a part of an elite club of nations that have a nuclear triad, and Prime Minister Modi himself making that announcement. Let's get in further details now from our political editor Kartikeya Sharma, who's joining us on the broadcast. The significance of this announcement, Kartikeya, has several layers to it. Coming first to how this means that India joins that elite club.
You see, it's a very important feat on part of the Indian government to break into the nuclear triad club. Now, nuclear triad was a very, very small, cozy club of US, Russia, UK, China and France. Now, India has broken into it. Now, if you look at the entire US nuclear deterrence, it is submarine based. And that is where the US was able to tilt Cold War in its favor, apart from the financial constraints which Russia went through, or the USSR. But the fact that every ICBM of deterrence was actually married to a submersible, and that way Russians all had their nuclear weapons on ground. So they were vulnerable. Even in the case of UK, China and France, their deterrence is not very, very high. A lot of people would say, what does it do? You know, India has one submarine. But please, one has to be very clear. It takes a lot to have a triad in itself. One, the submarine technology, and that too nuclear submarine technology, has been developed despite international pressure and despite number of barriers which have been created by almost all foreign countries. We got the experience, but we never got to actually ply a nuclear submarine which was loaded. So, you know, we had the capacity to run and operate a submerged nuclear reactor, which we call a nuclear submarine, but we never had that idea. So everything had to be built from scratch by the Indian companies, by the Indian government. Secondly, what the triad does is it makes you more powerful in context of military. Suppose you are a nuclear nation. You have 400 weapons. People have an idea as to 200 weapons are on ground. The bunkers are listed, can be actually seen through the satellites. Your Air Force delivery are limited. They are tactical nukes. They cannot be heavy nukes with multiple warheads. The only multiple warhead technology which can be married to another platform is a nuke, which means that the location of your deterrence, which is a nuclear missile, will never be known to your enemy. That's what makes American forces so formidable, because you really don't know where the next nuclear missile will fly from. And that is why American Navy deterrence is so much. And that is what is being challenged by China when they are making bases in Spratly Island. For what? Because they are trying to expand the capacity of the Navy. Modern warfare, post-World War, or I would say even post-First World War, has been Navy-centric, Navy and missile-centric. The Germans in the Second World War were the first to try V2 bombs, and that really created panic in the Allied forces. But what the Americans have done is they married the long-haul ICBM technology to the nuclear subs. So anywhere you have a carrier which is floating, which you cannot detect, and you can carry it to any part of the world, and the deterrence will be on the higher side. So I would say that it's a matter of great pride for every Indian to see that we have become part of a triad one. Secondly, this has been done, I would say, apart from bits and pieces here and there, primarily been an indigenous affair with little help from friends out there, but the dockyards which we have built, the capacity which we have built, have been owned. And secondly, we have to understand that suppose you have an aircraft carrier, then you decommission it. You get a second aircraft carrier. So when you lose that span of time, you lose a span of people who are trained in running that aircraft. So now, which means that our program is not only living and ticking, it also means that the acquisition spree of the submarines, and it also means that the building of the indigenous submarine will catch pace, because you need to have vehicle for the people who have already trained to operate them, or you lose skill. So it's a circular thing. You need the skill, you need the property. Without the property, you lose the skill. So both skill and property need to work together. So I think it's a great achievement, and I think this is realignment of a geopolitical reality. Though before China we had two naval warships, INS Vikram, both of them, one for Bay of Bengal, one for Arabian Sea, both of them the carriers of aircraft, but over a period of time we lost the capacity. So Vikramaditya is another. So we have to see this in the context of the triad we have built. So Indian Navy is also modernizing its naval fleet. So we also have an aircraft carrier. America has got 7 armadas. Armada is a Spanish word. What I mean is 7 naval battalions, 7 naval warships which are surrounded by nuclear capable submarines, and that's how the armada functions. So similarly, India, though it might have one, but at least it has been able to demonstrate the technology, complete the operation, and has made immediate neighbors vulnerable.
Indeed. Stay with me, Kartikeya. More tweets that have come in from the Indian Prime Minister that we must get our viewers through. He's also talking about how nuclear deterrence is the need of the hour, saying that India is a land of peace. Values of togetherness are enshrined in our culture. Peace is our strength, not our weakness, is what the Prime Minister says. Our nuclear program must be seen with regard to India's efforts to further world peace and stability. A strong message there coming in from the Indian leader, also adding that today is historic because it marks the completing of the successful establishment of the nuclear triad. India's nuclear triad will be an important pillar of global peace and stability. In an era such as this, a credible nuclear deterrence is the need of the hour. The success of INS Arihant gives a fitting response to those who indulge in nuclear blackmail. That's a very strongly worded message coming in, Kartikeya, from the Indian Prime Minister.
At the study of the Stockholm International Peace Research Institute, SIPRI, it says that India spent $63.9 billion in 2017, which is an increase of 5.5% compared to 2016 for defense. Now look at China. China spent $228 billion in 2017. That's the difference. And if you look at the American spending, it's way, way above. So I think what is important is that you should have a modern platform. You should have a mix and match of, I would say, weapons which are available. And secondly, when the nuclear doctrine was conceived and the work started on it, Vajpayee was the Prime Minister, and we already have a deterrence policy. It is no first use policy. And secondly, minimum credible deterrence is the mantra, which at that point of time the community of security decided for India. A lot of people disagreed, but the fact is that it continues to remain that way. So India, by completing the triad, has made itself safer. It has made the capacity to retaliate, because we believe in minimum credible deterrence, the credible deterrence, and no first strike. So which means our ability to strike back if struck first will be higher because of the submarine.
Absolutely, a huge landmark moment for India's defense forces. India is now a part of an elite club of nations that have a nuclear triad. Prime Minister Modi making that announcement himself through those sets of tweets that we are getting you on your screens, beginning with how INS Arihant has completed its deterrence patrol. Also saying that today is historic because it marks the completing of the successful establishment of the nuclear triad. India's nuclear triad will be an important pillar of global peace and stability. The Prime Minister also saying that the success of INS Arihant enhances India's security needs, saying it is a major achievement for our entire nation. True to its name, INS Arihant will protect the 130 crore Indians from external threats and contribute to the atmosphere of peace in the region. Those are the sets of announcements that came in from the Indian Prime Minister, also saying that India's pride nuclear submarine INS Arihant successfully completed its first deterrence patrol. I congratulate all those involved, especially the crew of INS Arihant, for this accomplishment, which will always be remembered in our history. Karthik, talking a little bit more now about INS Arihant itself and the historical significance that it has had for India's defence forces.
It's a release which has come from the Prime Minister's office. I would like to read it for the benefit of our viewers. It's a very short, concise release by the Prime Minister's office. And it says, quote, Prime Minister Narendra Modi received today the crew of Strategic Strike Nuclear Submarine. So the name for the submarine is SSBN, Strategic Strike Nuclear Submarine, INS Arihant. The submarine recently returned from its first deterrence patrol, completing the establishment of the country's survivable nuclear triad. Stressing the significance of the successful deployment of Arihant for the completion of nuclear triad, the Prime Minister congratulated the crew and all involved in the achievement, which puts India among the handful of countries. Noting that the indigenous development of SSBN and its operationalization attest to the country's technological prowess, the synergy and the coordination among all concerned, the PM thanked them for their dedication. The PM commended the courage and commitment of India's brave soldier. And PM also stated that the people of India aspire for a Shaktiman Bharat, strong India and building an India. So basically, it very, very categorically stated, the Prime Minister shares, as I was telling you, the credit. It says that as a responsible nation, India has put in place a robust nuclear command and control structure, effective safety assurance architecture, and strict political control under its nuclear command authority. It remains committed to the credible minimum deterrence and no first use as enshrined in the decision taken by Cabinet Committee on Security in its meeting chaired by then Prime Minister Shri Atal Bihari Vajpayee on January 4, 2003.
Right. I'll just come back to you, Karthike. Also joining us on the broadcast this minute is Ajay Lely, a senior fellow at the Institute of Defence Studies and Analysis. Thanks very much, sir, for speaking with us. For your initial reaction, starting off with how you are viewing this announcement, a landmark moment for India's defence forces.
I think as far as India's nuclear capabilities are concerned, India could be said to have achieved the basic capability of creating nuclear weapons in 1998 with the testing of a nuclear weapons. But only having a nuclear weapons is not important. You require a delivery system to deliver those nuclear weapons on the pre-designated targets. So these delivery systems come into three formats. One is by missiles, other is through air, and third is through sea-based systems. Till date, India never had a sea-based system which is fully operational. Now, with Arihant completing its first nuclear patrol, I think this is a very good news as far as India's nuclear triad is concerned. Because particularly for a nation which has got a policy of a no first use, having a sea-based capability is extremely important. And from that point of view, I can say that now at least India has made a very major progress towards completing its nuclear triad.
Right, and so also commenting a little bit on what the Prime Minister has said along with that announcement, he says that the success of INS Arihant gives a fitting response to those who indulge in nuclear blackmail. It's a strong message coming in from the Indian leader also at a very crucial time.
Definitely. You see, for quite some time, if you see the newspaper readings as well as the particularly statements made by Pakistan, at every drop of hat they were using the word nuclear. In fact, nuclear weapons are not supposed to be the weapons of use. These are strategic weapons conceptualized from a deterrence point of view. So Pakistan has conceptualized 2-3 new ideas where they were talking of a tactical nuclear weapons, and they are even got into the policy of threatening India that yes, we have got nuclear weapons. So in order to ensure that they will get a definite signal that India's nuclear capabilities are complete, I think this is a very important development.
And being a part of the nuclear triad, according to you, how significant is it and the message that it really gives out to the world at large?
You see, this is slightly a technical question.
Right.
I'll elaborate it in such a fashion that whenever you are having a second strike capability, that means we have got a policy that we will not use a nuclear weapons on our own. So whenever the other country decides to do a nuclear attack on your country, definitely their first target would be to ensure that they will kill your nuclear establishment itself. So under those circumstances, even if having a second strike policy has got no meaning because your nuclear system has got totally eliminated. So in order to ensure that you will have a live nuclear system available, you need to deploy your nuclear weapons out into the deep oceans. And for that purpose, you require ships like INS Arihant, which will be carrying platforms, missiles like KT-4 and KT-15. So this is a very important development, particularly for the country which has got a policy of a no first use.
Right, and sir, before we let you go, if you can elaborate for our viewers on the historical significance of INS Arihant, which has, of course, made this tremendous feat possible.
You see, as far as India is concerned, till date, we were depending on few Russian vessels, particularly for the nuclear-powered ballistic missile submarine program. But now we got an indigenous vessel which is available. It has been on tests for quite some time. It has got a range of almost 3,500 kilometers, particularly the missile K4, which could be married with this vehicle. So it's got a huge capability as far as Indian Ocean is concerned. So it's not only could be considered as a weapon which will be some sort of a signaling to Pakistan, but at the same time there is a signaling to China also because of the reach of this particularly ballistic missile.
All right, Ajay Lele, thanks very much for joining us on the broadcast with those perspectives and details and breaking down for our viewers what this announcement really means for India and the message that it sends out to the world at large, especially to its neighbors. We're going to leave it there for the moment. Thanks very much, both Ajay Lele and Kartikeya Sharma, for joining us with all of those details. But before we wrap up, here's in detail the statement that was released by the Prime Minister's office. The Prime Minister received today the crew of strategic strike nuclear submarine INS Arihant. The Prime Minister congratulated the crew and all involved in the achievement, which puts India among a handful of countries having the capability to design, construct and operate SSBNs. As a responsible nation, India has put in place a robust nuclear command and control structure, effective safety assurance architecture and strict political control under its nuclear command authority. That's an excerpt from that statement that came in from the Prime Minister's office shortly after the Indian Prime Minister Narendra Modi, through those sets of tweets that we got for you just a while ago, made that announcement. India now joining that elite club, achieving the nuclear triad.